Hello and welcome to the Glowface Digital Wellbeing Podcast. I am, of course, your host, David Talbot. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's podcast. We've been going for a few weeks now on a variety of different topics. And I really like podcasts because it's a chance for the conversation to take place. I guess that's what this is. Really, I know it's a sort of a one-way dialogue, but hopefully as you're listening, you're thinking through some of the things I'm saying, agreeing, hopefully disagreeing as well with a lot, challenging your own thoughts, but also challenging my thoughts too as you go. And I guess these long-form conversations are opportunities to, for the both of us to refine our thoughts around digital well-being. Now, I wanted to take some time today to talk through, I guess, really some of the fundamentals around digital well-being, particularly in relation to screen usage, and cover why we are in the state we are with our devices, with our phones, with screens in general. And really want to sort of boil it down to, I guess, the three reasons why we are addicted to our devices. Now, firstly, the word addiction is kind of thrown around a lot, whether you consider people to be addicted to it, whether it's a sort of a compulsion or some sort of obsessive compulsive disorder almost that we've all entered into with our devices around constantly and obsessively checking them. I guess categorize it as what you will. I think it's a bit of both. I certainly think it's an addiction in the sense that a lot of our phone use is detrimental to our lives. And think about an addiction in a classical sense. An addiction is a behavior that has negative effects on our relationships, our work, our emotional, and otherwise our well-being. And I definitely think people's screen usage falls into this category of addiction. But at the same time, we do feel compelled to check our devices on an intermittent basis. And I guess what's the compulsion? Why are we compelled to do this? And I guess that whole idea around it being a compulsion, I've taken that from Dr. Andrew Huberman, for the very famous podcaster of the Huberman Lab podcast. And thinking about what makes it a compulsion, why are we compelled to check our devices, why do we feel addicted, what's the three reasons that I think some of the three main reasons. There's a variety of reasons we go to social networking sites to check them. It could be simply to see friends, or we could be doing it actively, but I do think we do consume it very passively. We do consume it as a reaction to situations. We consume it in situations where we're bored, we're lost, we have nothing else to do, so we pick up our phone and we open the various social media apps that we do. So why do we do that? Firstly, I think we do that because we are looking for that hit of dopamine. Now, dopamine is thrown around a lot these days, but effectively, and I'll leave probably the experts to explain it much better than what I can. But it's definitely the feel good endorphin that's released, or the feel-good neurotransmitter, that's the word I was looking for, feel-good neurotransmitter that helps to reinforce positive behavior. So we get dopamine releases when we do things that our body likes. For example, one of the things that our body likes to do is eat. And of course, we do get dopamine when we eat. And one of the main things that we get dopamine from when we eat is, you probably guessed it, things like chocolate and sugars. For those of us with a sweet tooth like myself, those dopamine inducing foods are really quite satisfying. So we get dopamine when we eat food, but of course we have a feedback mechanism which stops us from constantly getting dopamine in those situations, which is of course our stomach. So that feedback mechanism, our stomach tells our brain that it's full, and we can no longer then get dopamine from our eating of chocolate, or eating of other food as well. But there's a bit of a difference when we sort of come to screens, when we open screens and we get dopamine because we see something that, we get that like from our post. We of course get dopamine when people interact with our content. I'm certainly guilty of that, 100%. But if we post a photo, or we post a comment, or any sort of piece of content online, we definitely get dopamine when people interact with our content, and we can get an almost a constant stream of this dopamine our social media sites by constantly interacting with it, and there's no feedback mechanism in the same way there is with our stomach. So there's nothing stopping us from constantly getting a hit of dopamine from using social media. The other way we get dopamine, and I guess number one and number two are related, is the fact that these programs, these applications, these social networking sites show us novel ideas and novel content. And really a lot of what we see on social media these days is quite humorous. For example, a lot of people like to talk about, a humorous meme or reel or some piece of content that's caught their attention that they think is really quite funny. And we think about it as a piece of novelty. And humans are really attracted to novelty. I think from an evolutionary standpoint, we are designed to seek out that which is novel and new. Winifred Gallagher, an author who wrote a book called Understanding our Need for Novelty and Change, argues that our genius for responding to new and different distinguishes us from all other creatures. So really it's about the fact that we are able to shift our attention to new things that come. If you think about like a tribal culture, you are on alert for danger at night. You're on alert for things that are moving around you, and it's our ability to shift our attention to things that are new and different that sort of distinguishes us from other species. And we get this new and different content coming through when we engage with social media. So you might find a piece of content that captures your attention for some reason. Let's say you're really into fitness, you see someone who's really, really strong, and so you watch that piece of content and you get a bit of a hit of dopamine from that content, and so you scroll through until you find another piece of content that engages you again, right? So this is sort of the process of finding novelty online. So we're definitely, I guess, creatures designed to find novelty. It's sort of built into our evolutionary biology, and we get dopamine when we find novel things. So tick, dopamine, we get it from social media, and tick, we get novel new things from social media as well. And the final thing that we do get, and I guess this is all sort of tied in as well, is this idea of variable scheduled rewards, in that you will get the reward, the dopamine from social media when you open the application. You see the novel content that you're interested in, and then you then have to go and search and find additional novel content that you're interested in again. And it's that sort of searching out that varied schedule of reward. You might see two pieces of content in a row that you engage with, but then you might search for another minute or two before you find something else that catches your attention. And it's that varying schedule of reward that you start to become accustomed to when engaging with social media. So you open the application, you look for some novel content that elicits dopamine, but then again, you start searching to find when's the next time on that application or on that social networking site will you get that piece of novel content again on that sort of varied schedule. You don't know when it's coming. When are you going to get rewarded with dopamine? And I guess there's those sort of three things that really form the crux of the compulsion to social media, the obsessive compulsive need to constantly check our phones, is even the addiction that comes to people's inability to put their phones away, their inability to stay focused on things for long enough. Because if they go to social media, if they go to their phones, they get a hit of dopamine, 2, they get to see lots and lots of novel content, and 3, they get to experience variable schedule reward, which is quite a satisfying experience for any human being. So they're the three main reasons in my mind why we are sort of addicted to social media, to our phones, to devices, and the reasons how we can sort of overcome those things as well. So that's today's podcast as well. And the three main reasons why you sort of overcome those things. That's today's podcast. Thank you so much They're the three main reasons why you become addicted, and hopefully some of the content sharing on Glowface Digital Wellbeing allows you to experience different ways in which to overcome those obsessive compulsive addiction style rewards that come from social media use. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out today's podcast. It was a quick one, a short one, but hopefully you learned a little bit about why we are in the state we are with screens, and continue to check out Glowface Digital Wellbeing content to learn more about the world of screens and digital and ways to improve your digital well-being. Thanks so much.